Welcome, members of the pack. I am White Wolf, and today we will be reading a Creepypasta. And today it's going to be only a single Creepypasta because it's actually pretty long. And I'm going into this one completely blind. It's called The Man with a Rooster's Foot. This took place December 2007 in Guasave, Sinaloa, Mexico. I can't read. I thought I wasn't present while this happened. I was told about it almost a year after. My grandmother used to visit once a year, usually around the holidays. Traveled 2 days on bus to come see us from Mexico. Now, let me start by saying that my grandmother isn't into the whole scary story thing. I mean, even as kids, when we left our toy snakes or bugs laying around, you'd hear her scream to get these things away from her. Things is in quotations, by the way. My grandmother told me this story when she came that year. Being Mexican, you would hear many ghost stories and folklore like La Llorona, the weeping woman. And you grew up being scared of El Cucuy. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Listening to my grandmother talk about this was different to me and has stuck to me since. It might help if they had a little bit of backstory on that, being that I'm not Mexican. I don't know anything about that, and I'm sure even some Mexicans don't even know anything about that. Alright, anyways, two of my cousins spent a lot of time playing foosball at Don Manuel's small store. Locals loved this place because of his amazing raspados, shaved ice. But both Emilio and Juan weren't there for that, or even the old foosball table. They were there because it was a great place for tourists. Robbing tourists was their way to pay expenses. Wow, what nice boys. Good for you. Good way. Good life. The small town knew what these two were up to that's two with two O's, by the way, when they approached an unsuspected tourist, but no one would say anything. They were fatal thieves, and it would never end well for a local that would interfere with their depredations. A few days before Christmas, a man walked into Don Manuel's wearing gold chains, rings on every other finger, bracelets on each hand. You don't wear bracelets on your hand, you wear bracelets on your wrist. High-priced clothing and expensive, I just scrolled the page, I'm sorry, snake-skinned boots. That's gross. A major mark for both Emilio and Juan, but before they attempted anything, they would have to observe the man closely. There was a high possibility, being clothed in that manner, that he was a major drug trafficker, or as we would call them, malandrin. Cool. Sinaloa, being a home to one of the largest drug cartels in Mexico, it was not uncommon seeing such an appearance, but robbing a malandrin would only get them killed. So my cousins listened mindfully as he talked to the locals. Discovering that he was not from here, according to the man, he was on a business trip as his father was an owner of a large agricultural, if I could read, chemical company. Relieving for my cousins to discover this, it was also an opportunity for a wealthy abduction. Though still very suspicious of the man's appearance, my cousin approached him. They talked for a little while before he mentioned if they did FOCO, F-O-C-O, okay. Or is it FOSO? I took Spanish 1, come on. The man was around my cousin's age, and asking about FOSO was a very common request. FOSO is a slang term for smoking crystal meth out of a light bulb. That's very specific. And the most prominent thing to do at the time. That's weird. Why? What are you doing with your life if you're smoking crystal meth out of a light bulb? Like, I'm just sitting here reading Crappypastas and someone's out there smoking crystal meth out of a light bulb. What are you doing with your life? My grandma would tell me that most neighborhood houses would no longer have porch lights due to this growing obsession. Are you sure? Are you sure? I think this is made up. Tell me, do people actually do this? Is this like a prominent thing in Mexico? Still apprehensive about this man, my cousins took this as an excuse to take him out of the store and into their home. Why would you go into anyone's home? Why? You don't even know the people. Oh my god, this story. Walking the man out first from Don Manuel's, there was no end quote there, but there was a beginning quote, so I'm going to assume that the rest of the story is a quote. Juan would turn around to see if anybody was watching or following them. Like mentioned, everyone would mind their own when it comes to Emilio and Juan's dealings. But this time, everybody present was staring at their flaky exit. Getting into Emilio's truck, Juan comments to the man that they were going to stop by friends to get the fossil. The man acknowledges with a nod, and Emilio asks him if he would like to ride with them. Without hesitation, he agrees once more. There was no sign of tension in the man's voice when asked to do certain actions made. Wait, what? Okay, your grammar sucks, just saying, man. There was no sign of tension in the man's voice when asked to do certain actions made Emilio and Juan uneasy, but at the same time certain that this man was addicted to fossil, building an easy and quite valuable hit. My grandmother remembers watching Emilio's truck pull up to her neighbor's house. Juan steps out and heads inside. The town is small and everyone knows each other, making it very hard for strangers to fit in. My grandmother's neighbor was Juan's grandmother. The man didn't know that and was made to believe it was some local drug dealer's house. Oh my god, I just imagine this little old lady walking out of her front door like, who wants some freaking meth out of a light bulb? He sat in the back of the truck waiting as Emilio spoke to him. My grandmother my grandma sweeping the front, sees a man in the back of the truck. Before getting a chance to look at him, the man tilts his hat forward to cover his face. She stood still to conceive who it was, and with a loud pop, the light bulbs all around the house burnt out. She was not the only one to experience this. The moment the truck drove in with the man on board, the whole block was encountering this odd event. Yep. Cause that just happens. You know, some magic man comes into my neighborhood and all of my light bulbs burn out. Yep. Juan walks out with his older brother and they both jump into the truck, making it seem as a drug deal. Juan's older brother sits in the back. The drugs and money are exchanged. Juan's older brother begins to conversate and ask to join them, but the man quickly says no. Without a pause, Juan's older brother steps out of the truck and right back into the house. Not a second thought or goodbye before he got out the truck, leaving Emilio and Juan staring at each other from the unusual behavior. By the time my grandmother walked back out from checking all the light bulbs, they were already gone. The man was now heading to Emilio's house, where they planned to keep him hostage. They were both playing it very cool with him, but had their uncertainties, as this was the first time they had ever attempted something unstable. At that, the conspicuous man's presence and behavior was not easy to bear with since the start. Okay, cool. Sitting right behind Juan in the truck, the man didn't speak much, but both of them kept him occupied to keep suspicions they thought would arise low. Okay. Again, your grammar really sucks, man. I don't know who wrote this, but your grammar sucks. Most Catholic, Hispanic, and Latino families will have a mural of a religious figure at a corner of their house somewhere. Emilio had one for the Virgencita, the Virgin Mary. It's a very praised mural and one of the most prevailing. When my cousins were walking into Emilio's home, the mural stood right by the door, causing the man to stop at the front door. The man would rub his throat, focused on the mural, saying, "It's too hot inside," as his skin turned pale. Okay, well, it's too hot. Too hot. Too hot! Okay, sorry, I had to, you know. Then says he would rather sit outside as he turns his back on the mural. Thinking nothing of it, Emilio gives Juan a nod. Juan knew what it stood for and walked outside, passing by the mural. Emilio slides his hand over it to make the sign of a cross, but stops as his hand is soaked in what seems to be water, describing the abnormal sight as sweat running down the mural. As sweat running down the mural. As sweat running down the mural. Yup. So obviously this man is a devil by this point. Because he's like, "Oh no, I can't take one of the virgins. They're too pure. Blah. Especially the one that gave birth to Jesus, even though she's virgin, she never had the sex." Alright, so anyways. Juan and the man laugh to reminisce. Okay, I didn't know that's how you spelled that word. Outside, as they fill their lungs with fossa, Emilio steps out from the house, and the man's laughter stops as he sees him holding up a handgun. Juan stands up off the chair, dropping the fosso, and slowly walks behind Emilio. The man tensely asks them to relax, picking the broken light bulb off the ground as a nervous reaction. Emilio, now shouting, blares to the man to stop. Demands, blares to the man to stop moving or he will shoot. He hands duct tape to Juan, telling him to tie the man down to the lawn chair, but Juan is terror-stricken at what he sees. What does he see? What does he see? I mean, apparently this is normal for them, so what's going on? While attempting to tie the man's feet, first Juan catches a glimpse of a rooster's foot, and the other of a goat's. Cool. Why? Trembling, he falls back, scrambling at the sight. Emilio is stunned when the man slowly stands up, altering his appearance. The gold chains he wore were now strings with teeth and flesh hanging from it. Cool. I don't know how that works, but you know, his bracelets on each hand were not made out of bone and fingers. Okay, they were not made out of bone and fingers. They were not made out of bone and fingers. So the high-priced clothing he wore were worn and discolored, and the expensive snakeskin boots were replaced with a rooster's and goat's foot. Cool. Okay, so now all of a sudden he's standing up. He looks like a normal guy, but his necklace has pieces of flesh and, did I say teeth? Yeah, teeth. Flesh and teeth on it. And it's not a gold chain anymore, it's just a string. His bracelets were not made out of bone and finger. And his clothes basically looked like he washed them 50 times. And then apparently his feet grew over his shoes and turned into a rooster and goat's foot. Emilio and Juan were paralyzed at the man's new manifestation. "Both of you don't know me," said the man, his voice profound and darker. "But I know both of you very well," he said, walking forward. "I have watched both of you for a very long time, and I'm not impressed." The man continued talking as he walked off the property. Emilio and Juan were unable to move, with nothing to do or say, other than watch and listen fearfully at what the man had to say. "I will be back in 6 years," finished the man as he disappeared into the dirt roads. According the Juan's grandmother, which told my grandmother the story, they were both found a week later inside Emilio's house, facing down on the laminate floor, both being hospitalized for what the doctors claimed as overdoses. Emilio was deaf for a month after the incident, and Juan was kept in the hospital for several months due to him going blind. Cool. So now one of them's deaf. One of them's deaf and the other one's blind. That's great. My grandmother passed away last year due to health complications. we all loved. What? Where did this come from? That was the end of the story. My grandma passed away last year due to health problems. We all love and miss her very much. Where did this come from? I get that she kind of like told you the story, but like you don't just include that in there. First of all, nothing about this story was scary. Like if I saw a man with a goat and rooster foot, I'd be like, first of all, like one of your feet is way smaller than the other. And second of all, what sick doctor amputated you? And it, like, made it sound like they were just tripping balls the entire time. Because it's like they overdosed on meth coming out of a light bulb. Ah, this is a good story. 10 out of 10 would cry again. So yeah, this is fun. Basically, this guy's cousins are robbing random tourists for like no freaking reason when they could be productive and get a job, and no one in the town questions it, even though they all know what's going on. Like, no one. Apparently this town doesn't have police officers. And then they try to rob this guy. They're like, hey, why don't you come do some meth out of light bulbs with us? And he's like, yeah, sure. I like meth out of light bulbs. And then they go get the meth, and everyone's light bulbs are going out. Because they need more light bulbs to do meth. and then they're just sitting out on the porch doing their meth. And he's like, no, I don't want to see that Virgin Mary mural. Get that out of my face. I'm a demon. and no one thinks it's weird. No one at all. And so they try to rob him, and then all of a sudden, like, I don't know what happened. Maybe they like looked away for a second, or maybe there was just a huge flash of light and no one saw it. But every single thing on his body changed, except for like his actual torso and above. And now he has like a string necklace with flesh and teeth, and he has bracelets that are not made out of bone and finger. Oh, this is great. And he's like, I'll be back in 6 years, bro. And then they never tell what happens when he gets back. Like, alright. Okay. The only bad thing that happened in this story is that the two guys overdosed and the grandma died. Okay. Like, if a dude threatened to come back in 6 years, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, by then I'm going to have moved to a different country. Like, you know, Japan. But no, he's just like, I'll be back in 6 years. And these two guys are like freaking wusses, trembling in their boots and almost peeing their pants. And then apparently after he leaves, they're just like, yeah, that happened, let's do some more meth out of light bulbs. So yeah, that was that was the man with the rooster's foot. I hope you guys enjoyed the stupidity because I loved reading it. It was so stupid. 10 out of 10 would cry again. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!